Hello, people. Folk and Flick, my imaginary friends, my real friends. The world is still turning. I hope you're all doing well. Time for another bit of my own brief history of heaven and end of days dialogues. Again, inspired from chatting with people on WhatsApp about the crisis. The other day, a friend sent me a video. This individual said he figured out exactly what happened with the outbreak, and basically it's the typical thing. It originated in China, and China dropped the ball. They lied, and that's it. The rest of the world was screwed. So that's the basic thesis, and not much evidence or nothing very detailed, nothing fine-grained in his opinion, but it's a common opinion, and it's pretty bog standard, really, nothing earth-shattering or new about it. So I said, the news is patient zero being a female PhD student at an infectious disease lab. A place, I don't know if it's an infectious disease lab or whatever, but there's a lab in Wuhan we've heard about. Somehow it jumped out of there, probably by accident, and there you go, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that, but I said many of us had our suspicions months ago. We also know about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and how it operates in a completely different way from other countries. If you don't know about that, then just read some Chinese history, and it's interesting. It's worth it. So at this point, what good does it do to blame China and imply that China's mistakes were any more deliberate than Italy's or the USA's? Old speculations are unhelpful at this point, mainly since the issues are pretty obvious now. Basically, we got to get this thing sorted out. And the trade wars with China, and the enmity, the competition, and it's so complicated, but we've been watching this for years with the Trump administration. China and the USA can't help themselves. They're going to make things worse than it could have possibly been. Why? Because no government's perfect, and every government has its agenda and its way of dealing with crises. Maybe we don't tell the people for a few days until we figure out exactly what's going on, and so on and so forth. And in America, unfortunately, it's all partisan politics and ideological bickering and all of that keeps anybody from doing anything. And all the states are independent states, and they all have their governments that do things differently depending on how their culture is and their government, and so on and so forth. It's tough, it's complicated. So they're going to screw up. It's just the way it is. It's structurally baked in that we screw up. We're not looking globally and saying there are global issues that must be tackled on a global basis. We have to cooperate for humanity's sake, for the public good of all of humanity. And let's also widen that ethical circle a little bit and include plants and animals in our environment and so on, that we depend on, by the way. It's so obvious. You have to say it over and over and over again. People will still argue with you. At the moment, which country is doing a better job of controlling their epidemic, this pandemic? So you can look at Germany and France and the UK and Japan and Singapore and Italy and other countries, and you can kind of get an idea who's managing things better and why. It's not that hard. I'll put some links in the show notes. And I hope people listen to those discussions and share them, because we have to get up to speed. One would have to want to look into that question with an open mind and a desire to understand and interpret the facts fair-mindedly. Both sides are far from perfect, and both sides have laws, rules, and practices in place that preclude an ideal instant response to a crisis. If we want to talk about global power games or global financialized trade games, remember, China learned the damn game from Uncle Sam, the best player in the world, right? Make no mistake about that. China is Uncle Sam with Chinese characteristics. It's clear at this point that blaming China doesn't help. We send them aid and then they send us aid. It's a crisis. The finger pointing is a waste of time. This pandemic has already exploded. One could say it's all China's fault. Then what? Then what do we do? And there will come a time when investigations are done and books have been written and we can look back and figure things out. But right now we just have to keep people from dying. The United States is making a mess of things right now. 8 states still refuse to issue shelter-at-home orders. Pastors of megachurches are encouraging people to come and lay hands on one another. It's madness. They still don't get it. But you're going to point the finger somewhere else when that kind of nonsense is happening in the United States. I know, you watch the news, you know all about it. While this tragedy rages across the globe, the USA is gaming the war with China. What good will war with China do? Imposing crippling sanctions on nations during a pandemic is criminal. I mean, we just can't help it. We've got to go out and cause more trouble because, that's what we do. We've got bases everywhere. We've got the best military in the universe, and we have to use them. They have to have some practice. The USA thrives on anger and hostility. The whole economy revolves around despair, brutal competition, and war. That's my opinion, and I'm not the only one with it. I'm the dumbest guy with that opinion. If the USA didn't have a supervillain to blame, it would invent one, which is what it always is doing, creating conflict. War maintains the status quo, an endless supply of public goods-stricken cannon fodder. You don't have enough money, you didn't grow up with opportunities, you go into the military, and you go off and go insane. If it doesn't kill you, it messes up your mind and your soul. The mistakes that the USA has made are on the U.S. government's back, right? They have to take responsibility. Let's say for fun that the next big bad thing comes from the USA. So what? The U.S. is exceptional and will never admit fault. That will never happen. The point is to go beyond this kind of lousy governance. When the USA blows something up, people back off and ask for money. They go and they invade, and then all the vampires come in and suck US dollars. Most of circulating currency, US currency, not the digital kind, but the circulating kind, the kind that you touch, is in the hand of drug dealers and corrupt officials. The cash is in somebody's backyard buried in a container somewhere. Oh boy. When the US blows something up, people back off and ask for money. When China fucks up, as they do, we get World War III. Because, we got to go in there and liberate the Chinese from China, the Chinese government. Thanks to the US military-industrial complex and pathological greed. The Republican Party and corporate Democrats, in terms of evil acts and intentions, are on par with the CCP. Sorry, I'm not as much of a flag waver as some people are, but come on, you can look at history. What a mess. Can people fight the USA and the CCP and heal world culture? That's the question. Hell no, populations will take their marching orders from monsters for a big gulp, plastic bits for their kids, and a chance to destroy ecosystems for a ticket to the show. That's about how interested we are in revolution or doing anything. You think there's going to be Paul Revere's and Minutemen and so on in today's generation? I sincerely doubt it. I've seen Chinese tourists at work in Thailand What a mess. And ties allow it for the money. They go down, they wreck everything. Thai people need the money. It's all for money, folks. Destroy the scuba diving down there. Destroy the environment. Prostitution and whatever. It's all because of the money. People just don't have enough public goods. They're starving. A lot of people are. If you have enough money, you don't care because you're too busy being cool and being vain. I've got the most beautiful friends. I've got the most beautiful car. I'm a cool guy. I care more than most people. I'm educated, whatever. If we wanted to accomplish something, we'd say, okay, the CCP messed up and we need to figure out how to stop large, essential countries from messing up. But no, instead, we will parlay this disaster into a war that will last 10 years longer than COVID-19. And by the time it ends, humanity will have evaporated off the planet. Is that what we want? It's time to think about it. Another day, another look at the shit show. Another chance to register my disappointment. Another swim, another ride, another meal. At the same time, I wait on getting it and leaving this mortal coil. We all get killed eventually. It's absurd. Thank you, Albert Camus. And I was watching some old Dick Cavett, or some old TV 70s show with Carl Sagan. And he talked with Carl Sagan for 35 minutes on a late night comedy show. That wouldn't happen now. And it was a profound conversation, and Carl mentioned climate change and nuclear weapons proliferation, weapons of mass destruction, and other things, pandemics, in that conversation, and that was back in the 70s. So it's not like we didn't know this was coming. It's like we didn't want to prepare for it. So thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again. Take good care, comment, look at the show notes, look at the description for some links. Adios, take care, bye.